I feel like this discussion might get a little controversial because this band can't really escape it. So we have Architects with their brand new album, The Sky, the Earth, and All Between. Up to this point in 2025, I would say definitely the biggest album release of the year. Like, just on name alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having heard the singles, all of us in varying degrees, I know at some point, I don't think we all heard the same singles. Did it meet, exceed, or fall short of expectations, would you say?
I would say exceed.
Exceed.
I would agree.
So, should we get started with the opener then, Elegy?
Yes.
Yes. What's that face for?
The weakest song on the album.
Are you kidding me?
Elegy is my second
cool.
favorite. Elegy is my second favorite. Elegy genuinely had the potential to be like top 10 song of the year if the build into the opening guitar riff was an electronic breakdown instead. Like, if you turn Elegy into an EDM song, this shit is so fire. But it's Architects, so it's metalcore.
But I mean, it could have been, though, because what is that song later in the album that starts off with like an electronic sound effect? I'm blanking because I've only heard. I think it's Judgment Day.
That's the Judgment.
Which is like, okay, that gave me, which in my opinion is the best song on the album, if I'm stating it there. But I think I agree with you. That just brings me to one of my early points. I feel like there are a lot of good electronic elements on here. I wish there were more.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Architects, anyway. They overcompensated with the heaviness and forgot about the electronics.
Well, so I know that especially me, but Jacob, you as well, weren't necessarily as high on the classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. I think that it would be easy to say, even Jake, I know you like that album for the most part. This is a good course correction in the right direction. Like, I would say this is a step up from classic Symptoms.
I think this is like it's almost similar in like style to that album. Like, it's heavier than the previous the one before that. For those that wish to exist. But it's almost like a combination of the two where it tones down the heaviness a little and you get more melodic and, as you said, electronic.
Yeah, what I said in my quick little 60-second review that I did the day it dropped was that I think Architects found a really good middle ground between the last two albums. You have the heavier moments on For Those That Wish to Exist. You get a lot of Sam's Queen singing getting better on the classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit. And you take the best elements of both of those, and I think this is the album that you get for it. I did say at the time, I think that I still enjoy the classic Symptoms of a Broken Spirit more because I am not the biggest fan of Sam's gutturals that are way more prevalent on this album, whereas on the classic Symptoms, you still had heavier moments on like Be Very Afraid or No Moral Low Ground, but you didn't have any of those super low gutturals, whereas they are present on a lot of songs on this album that kind of, I don't want to say ruin, but for my taste personally, I would have enjoyed the songs more without them. But I think I've come around to this album being, I would probably say this is the better album.
I want to.
It's close though. Like, I know a lot of fans will say that last album was shit garbage, but
I think this album, Sam, his vocal range is really displayed very well. Like it's everywhere. Like you said, you don't like the gutturals, but I think they're like him changing it up so much makes it more memorable for me. And you gotta note another thing. The production is Jordan Fish, and every guitar, drum, bit in this album is so freaking punchy. You note it especially on Whiplash and Black Hole, and even Elegy a little bit. It's so punchy. I love it, and we talked about Elegy a little bit, but I want to go into the lyrics because I think it's really cool. The way they do it. For those who don't know what an elegy is, it's like a poem to like a dead person. So like a eulogy, right? You like at a funeral, you talk about a person's life. It's like that, but in a poem form. So like the whole of elegy is leading up to the breakdown, which basically is the elegy. You've written out my elegy again, again, and then it goes into the bridge, which is like the elegy itself, which I thought was really, really interesting and cool. Like it's something I haven't seen before, and like you get the little poem in the bridge, and then all of a sudden, whoa. Yeah, I just thought it was really creative decision.
There are really just so many strong moments on this album that I feel like without Jordan Fish, they wouldn't have hit as hard. Like I definitely in you talking about how punchy things are, the production is insane on this album. Yeah. And I think that this is something that was missing. I mean, you know me, I wasn't the biggest fan of All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us or Holy Hell. And I think that one of the biggest complaints that I had from those albums is that the instrumentation, everything doesn't feel like, it feels like there needs to be a little bit more oomph to me. And a lot of moments in this album, or those albums, I should say. And that's not present here. It's not missing at all. Every moment that's meant to hit, hits. And it makes for such a better album experience. I think that same thing was missing on Classic Symptoms of a Spirit, right? That's what it's called, I think. Okay. Yeah. I'm the resident Architects non-enjoyer. I feel like I love For Those That Wish to Exist, and nothing else is hit for me. But I found so many songs on here to enjoy. I think I saved all but 3.
Which three?
Elegy, Curse, and Chandelier.
What?
Let me explain. Look, Elegy, I have no doubt will grow on me. I've only heard the album once, and I have no doubt that Chandelier will as well. My biggest problem with this album is where Seeing Red is placed. Because I think For Those Who Wish to Exist, it was my album of the year in 2021 at one point. I think it ended up in like number 9 or 10. But one of the biggest things that I enjoyed about that album was, even though I'd heard Meteor as a single and didn't like it as much, the fact that it came second to last, like it had such like great pre-closer energy almost, that like it was an epic song that really,
like, you could feel the album starting to wrap up before you even hit the closer sort of thing.
Absolutely and it really prepped me for a beautiful closer. And Seeing Red and the messaging behind it, which is just like, you only love us when we're heavy, like whatever, here's your pissed off song. Like I wouldn't have expected it to be on this album. And if it was, I would have expected it to come much earlier. And because Seeing Red isn't Meteor, and it doesn't have that same energy, it doesn't prep me at all. You tell me where that song's going to be on the track list, I'm never telling you second to last. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And so then
I can kind of see that.
Yeah, once I got there, I think that's what stopped me from enjoying Chandelier. I don't like that song straight up. Like it's it's the problem.
It grew on me on this album.
It's surrounded by so many stronger tracks is the problem for me. I think that it's like, okay, why? Like, what are you doing here? Like, I would love, I know sometimes there are like albums that we quote unquote fix by like throwing into a playlist and like switching around the order, like throwing a different single from before the album in there. I would love to do that with this, because I feel like there's not necessarily a bad song on here. It's just a victim of its own track list almost. That would be my one gripe with it, because I for all my faults that I had with the last album, I have no complaints about this other than that. Like, I thought this was a great metalcore album that Architects have turned it around after a really middling album experience I had with the last one. They've brought in some electronic elements, which need more metalcore bands to do. Missing Icy Stars. Please, Architects. If Architects enters their electronic arc, I will issue the biggest like hater apology form of all time. You will never hear a single negative thing about Architects from me ever again.
Mentions Doomsday.
No, I will rescind my. I will buy a copy on vinyl. Actually, I probably won't. Those are probably really expensive at this point, I would imagine. But no, that's. I don't know if you all feel the same way or felt that in the album, but to me, the album's end with those last 3 tracks didn't feel like it could have hit as much as it should have, given how well the rest of the album was produced and all those other moments that really struck hard.
To be fair, I think Chandelier does what Meteor, you're saying Meteor does. It's in itself. I think Chandelier is my favorite Architects closer, and that's saying a lot because we have like Memento Mori, and Architects is always known for pretty good.
Be very afraid. Classic Symptoms isn't a bad album.
I didn't even know that was the name of the song, honestly, or the name of the closer.
The closer from that last album is my favorite song on the album. It's like top 5 Architect song for me. I will die on that hill. I will fight for Be Very Afraid.
But I think Chandelier is the best because it starts light like a closer. But like almost every other Architect's close, actually Memento Mori does that too, where it progressively gets heavier. Memento Mori is long though, like 6 minutes or something. Man, I've kind of like defeated my whole point, like talked myself out of it. Anyway,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say it reminded me a lot of the closer to the Rain City Drive album from last year. What was that?
Yeah,
Sacrifice.
Yes, Sacrifice. That progression, I think they nailed it. In saying that it was like one of the, I think it literally is just like the fact that Seeing Red exists before it. I just wasn't expecting the closer yet because of the way that the track list worked out, and then I get there and I'm like, oh, we're in the closer now. Because I didn't have the track list up. Like, I wasn't paying attention. I just wouldn't have ever assumed that I'm hearing Seeing Red before the closer. Because it's a beautiful song. I was left almost kind of shell-shocked listening to the album. Like, what the hell? How did we get here? Bring me back, like, I don't know. Broken Mirror, I think, would be a great song to have before the closer.
Yeah, I think Broken Mirror is the pick before Chandelier. That's what I would do.
If we get Curse and Seeing Red and then Broken Mirror and Chandelier, I'm having an entirely different conversation. I think I definitely, both for myself and in general, there is a lot of replayability from this album, regardless of the track list. I think there's so many strong songs here. Playlistable, able to be listened to front to back on the album. I'm interested to see where the replayability, where it lands us as we progress through the year.
I've had this album on repeat. Like,
yeah, I've been listening to this album a lot more than I thought I would. It's like I came out of this album day one being like, it's fine. I'm probably only going to go back to Everything Ends. And then I spent the rest of the next week re-listening to literally every song on the album.
So what I'm hearing is I need to get over myself.
Just by you need to listen to it more than one.
Yeah.
I have 197 listens.
Damn.
Like, of tracks. I've heard, so I don't know what the math is on that. But
I have 12.
There's 13 songs.
There is? No, there's 12, surely. Yeah, it's 12.
Oh, I'm crazy.
Oh. I was like, wait, hold on.
Math is hard.
I know. I'm
doing math.
Well,
I've listened to it 16 times.
Okay. All right. Well, that's 15 more than me. So I'm going to trust your opinion over mine and give it another go. There's enough here, regardless of my complaints, to make me want to go back into it. And I'm excited to hopefully enjoy Elegy a little bit more. And now that I've heard everything, know what I'm getting into, this album's definitely worth a listen. In my complaining about the little bit at the end, it's definitely a strong metalcore album. People who gave up on Architects after the previous album, because I remember so many people complain. Like Jake, your opinion that it was a good album was not popular.
I know.
I was not. So I'm happy that they went back. I mean, I guess proving the point a little bit in Seeing Red, but it's not just heavier songs. It's heavier songs done well. Anyway, Jake, it looks like, did you do your math?
Yeah, I pulled up the numbers. Jacob, you said 186 for Architects, right? Or 196?
197.
Okay. Well, I thought, so I have 186 on Winona Fighter, and I thought we would have the same numbers on Winona Fighter and Architects. I thought that'd be fun. I've got, in the past 30 days, I'm at 156 plays on Architects. So that's like a pretty respectable number.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think. Like, yeah, I've genuinely spent more time with this album than I thought I would. Coming out of the album, I was like, I really like Everything Ends, which we haven't really even talked about that song. It's probably the most radio-friendly song on the album, which is everything that I loved about that last album so much. And Sam singing really has just gotten so much better. I really like the line in the pre-chorus, "Castles only I can defend," where the entire song is basically, it's about like the battle in your head, about like, I don't know, just overthinking things, feeling that anxiety, and just all of the, I don't know, thoughts in your head and whatever. But that idea of castles only I can defend is that like all of these thoughts that any one person is having at any time, and no matter how stupid or dumb they are, because it's me, I'm able to come up with a reason to like logic to make it seem logical. Whereas like that's basically like, if my brain is a castle, if my brain is the castle walls and inside my brain are all these overthinking thoughts, only my brain is able to defend the thoughts inside the castle. Anyone that is picking apart the thoughts in my brain, like why I am too afraid to try a new food and have not tried any new food intentionally in the better part of a decade at this point, like that is not a logical thought. My brain is able to normalize that and make it seem logical. That is something only me very specifically am able to defend. And that's not like the entire point of the song, Everything Ends. It's kind of about like accepting that even when you're going through a bad time, eventually you're gonna just, oh, suddenly I'm not feeling so shitty sort of thing. But just that one line about castles only I can defend, and Sam's vocal delivery of it before the pre-chorus was something that I've really resonated with. And as I said, Sam's Queen singing has just gotten so much better, and a song almost entirely being that was straight up my alley. As I already mentioned, Elegy, my second favorite song on here, phenomenal opener. I just love the way that slow builds. It's like, it almost has the Pray for Rain structure that is like one of my favorite album openers of all time. It just, it's not Pray for Rain. But I love the way that song builds, and that's one of the few times on this album where I think Sam's gutturals actually work. Like when he drops the first low vocal in that first verse, I don't remember what word he does it on, but like I was having a great time with it. By the time we get to the second, it might just be an O. But by the time we get to the second half of the album with the stretch of Landmine's Judgment Day, Broken Mirror Curse, something I noticed is that a lot of the breakdowns and heavier moments on this album have a very repetitive structure of when the guttural shows up. And as someone that doesn't like the gutturals anyway, when like I get in Landmines, I get like the breakdown of another couple strikes that I'm out, these punishments were made to measure. I get this really like the normal Sam's Unqueens. And I don't mind that delivery. I like that delivery. But then you get the third line of drowning flowers in the depths of a drown. I've got all of this written down to try and prove my point, because I would not be able to remember these lyrics at all. You get to that third line and it's the guttural, and I just kind of sigh. I sit back in my seat. I'm not as invested as soon as the gutturals come up. Judgment Day, it's more electronic, it's more Queen's focus. You get that phenomenal feature from Amir Alfaqi. And then in the breakdown again, you get that one word that is done in the guttural, and Death Row Dreams. And Sam just belts out dreams in a guttural, and it's like, did Judgment Day really need it? Okay, fine. It's just a second song. Then we get to Broken Mirrors, and he does the same thing again, where it's reflections and then a guttural on the word scattered, and it's like, can I get a normal breakdown, please, without a guttural? Is that so hard to ask for?
I wanted to go back to what Derek was talking about with Seeing Red. After looking at it, I'm staring at the track list right now. Curse and Seeing Red were released way before everything else. Why? I feel like they're just slapped on the end there.
Yep.
Maybe.
Let's just get rid of it.
Exactly.
Both of them. Make it a 10-track album.
Exactly. I would be very interested to put that in a playlist and listen to it and see how it feels. Or even two other... Because, I mean, with how strong the rest of the album is, right? Surely they have the capability to write 2 new songs. Like, even thematically, Seeing Red...
10 tracks is fine, too.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm just like, I don't know. There's so many options other than what we got. Why?
I am a Curse defender. I really enjoy Curse. I love that chorus. It does fall victim to the
album, though.
Does it need to be on the album, though? I think I would be fine without it. Like, I really enjoy it on the album, but I don't think I would be heartbroken if it's not on there. With me being a Curse defender, I'm also not going to defend that it did the 3rd line guttural for the 4th song in a row on the album.
Well, something else I don't understand. Seeing Red almost feels like a shot in the foot with where it is. Because you've just gotten done giving us an album that was heavier than your last, that the tracks are things that you should be proud of, like as an artist, I feel like. And then the point is, oh, well, you guys only love us when we're heavy, so here it is. Like, you're welcome for the songs that we just gave you. It's like, no, if you're trying to create like a piece of album experience and art to be enjoyed, why would you at track 11 of 12 be like, I'm kind of like mad that we have to make heavy music in order for our fans to like us. It's like, why? Like, maybe track 2 after an opener? Sure.
I was literally just about to say, Elegy into Seeing Red into Whiplash probably would sound great.
Oh, yeah.
But I also want to pose the question of, is there hidden meaning to Seeing Red that we haven't picked up on? Like, is there a defendable lyrical reason for it to be at that point that we are just like, oh, it's the song about Sam... It's like the general topic about the song is, oh, it's the song about Sam being mad about we're a heavy band and the fans only like us when they're... Is there a deeper meaning that we're not picking up on because the obvious message is obvious? And, like, does that deeper meaning justify it being the second to last song?
I don't think so. I don't think there's... a redeemable because I thought about that too in terms of like the other themes on this album, especially like politically and different things like that. I don't think so. I think that the message is they were a little too here's the problem. They were a little too in their face or in our faces with the messaging that they wanted to convey when that song dropped, especially given that it was like after the previous album and people made all these comments about like Architects is dead.
They made a tour for it too.
Yeah, like it's I feel like it's on here solely, like you said, it's kind of just slapped on at the end, and I feel like it's because it was 2 popular songs that they felt the need to include because sonically it worked, whereas like in terms of like putting them actually on an album, it just...
I feel like Curse kind of works lyrically with...
Yeah, it's forgivable.
Yeah,
it's a forgivable ad.
Seeing Red, no, yeah,
I don't. They've got me seeing red by putting it on here. Like, now I'm mad. Take it off. It's a great song. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy listening to it a lot. I've spun it plenty of times. It just, I didn't know what to think going into this album per se. It exceeded all my expectations, and then we got to that point. And damn, like you almost stuck the landing, and there's just this one barrier that's keeping me from enjoying it as much as I want to, or giving a song like Chandelier, which by all means should not be a song that I don't have saved. But after my first listen, I'm just like, ugh, left me a bad taste in my mouth. I don't know. I know I've been harping on that point a lot, but I think it frustrates me so much because the rest of the album is so damn good. Like, it's
You're allowed to harp on it because I have spent a lot of time harping on Sam's gutturals appearing like for 3 seconds a song.
True.
And I haven't mentioned it, but Whiplash and Black Hole fall victim to the same thing as well, of the second or third line guttural that I'm just like, you take
these Architects gutturals.
Can I put them all at 5? Wait, Elegy, the first verse of Elegy, that goes at number 1. Everything else is at 5. You can't make me put a 2 through 4. I think the last point that I want to kind of wrap up this discussion with is mentioning the features, because we get 2 features on this album. We get House of Protection on Brain Dead, and we get Amir Al-Faqih on Judgment Day. Seeing that Amir Al-Faqih feature on the track list had it as one of my most anticipated songs of the entire year coming into this album. And I hate to say, but I was a little let down by Judgment Day. Like, it's a good song. Amira sounds great. I love her feature, but on the whole, I don't know. I expected the song to be more epic.
I
maybe like I shouldn't have, because it's not like Amira is like a super heavy artist or anything. Like it makes sense that she's featured on one of the softer songs on the album and like one of the more melodic songs, but I don't know. I was expecting more from the feature, and ultimately left a little let down. It's still a fine, even good song, but it was the song I was most looking forward to from this album, and it did not meet the very high bar that I had set for myself. Then you also get the feature from House of Protection on Braindead, which we haven't touched on that song at all yet.
At all.
The main riff on that song is fun as hell. Also falls victim to the unnecessary gutturals fallacy that I have continued to string along in this review discussion. But the chorus is fine. The verses are fine. I don't love the House of Protection feature either, but I think how much fun energy there is in the riff and in the chorus kind of makes up for it. So even though I don't love the feature, I hear that like fast-paced, like almost punk riff, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm having a good time. And then the verses, I'm like, kind of take it or leave it, but like that's kind of, I guess, something that I can say for the whole album is that even though there are moments, the gutturals, that I don't like on most of the songs, there's enough to keep me interested in every song on here. Each song might have their flaws, but they aren't deal breakers to me.
I think Brain Dead might be my least favorite song on this album.
Honestly, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I would agree. It's bottom 3.
Well, that was a long discussion. I can't imagine there's much more to say about this album.
Justin?
Yeah.
How's everything ends?
It's fine.
That's about what we expected.
Yep.
I liked Black Hole, funnily enough.
That makes no sense.
What?
I love the chorus in it.
Okay.
That is a phenomenal chorus.
That's
Big
true.
asterisk, yeah. Big asterisk.
The chorus is
yes,
really good.
correct.
Everything ends. I mean, as Jake says, probably like their most radio friendly song. Everything else kind of fell by the wayside.
About par
for
for
me.
the chorus.
Yep, par for the course. We'll take the Black Hole chorus dub. That's progress.
Facts.